Hello and welcome to Cognos Analytics, what you may have missed. My name's Zach. I'm a data and AI technical specialist at IBM, working specifically with Cognos Analytics, and I'm here to share some of the latest and greatest features of Cognos Analytics that you may not have known about before. Over the last decade or so, Cognos Analytics has gone through some major updates that really changed the scope and scale of what analytics users can achieve. Version 10 of Cognos Analytics was a tool focused very much on reporting and was very developer heavy, mainly used for the enterprise grade pixel perfect reporting that Cognos Analytics is still known for today. Version 11 saw a turn towards self-service analytics with a redesigned, more user-friendly UI and the introduction of dashboards for self-service analytics. Version 11 also saw the first iteration of the built-in AI assistant. This natural language conversational assistant was the main focus of the version 12 update, which focused on analytics for everyone, with huge improvements to the assistant to focus on the natural language interactions that can help all business users uncover insights in a chat interface without the need for dashboarding and reporting skills, greatly lowering the barrier to entry to the analytics party that all business users are desperate to be a part of. Version 12 is where we are today, and that's what we'll be taking a look at, with some of the latest and greatest features from the last couple of versions to catch you up on what you may have missed. So this is the landing page for Cognos Analytics 12. It might be slightly different to what you're used to if you're on an older version, but the concept is very much the same. So we have the front and center of the screen, the interaction interface with the assistant, where we have this box that you can start typing your questions into to start that natural language conversation and start uncovering those insights. We can access the assistant from wherever else we are in Cognos Analytics with this little icon in the top corner here. And we just start by typing in a question. And if we don't know where to begin, we can ask for help. We just type help and ask the question. And this will open up the full screen interface of the assistant. We can close this down with the icon in the top right corner at any time. So we've asked for help, and the assistant is going to guide us through our journey. We are prompted a couple of times to select a data source to get started. Up the top here and in the middle, we can use any of these helpful pointers, or we can just type select source at the bottom here, but I'm going to do mine manually. I'll just click select, go over to my content, and I will open this SEDM, that's my Smart Electronics data module. So this data that I'm going to be using is just some generic sales data from a department store which has multiple product lines, lots of customer information, and lots of sales information as well. So we can see that this has updated. We've changed our source to SEDM, and Cognos has asked if I'd like to see a list of relevant fields that I might find useful. We see the list here is target revenue, and quantity sold. Cognos Analytics has given some concepts and some identifiers to these fields. So we see the main difference between revenue and target revenue is that target revenue is planned and revenue is actual. If we don't know where to begin, we can ask the assistant to suggest some questions, and it will come back with a range here, all based on the statistical significance of our data. We can ask very simple questions, such as which product line has top revenue, and asking a direct question will get us a direct answer. The product line is photography, and the revenue is 50 million. We can ask some of our own questions, though, such as show me revenue. And by asking to see the revenue column, Cognos Analytics will tell us about that. So we can see the usage, the aggregate and data type of this column, as well as some interesting fields that relate to revenue, like unit cost and product line. The eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that this interaction has triggered a Watson insight. So when you upload your data to Cognos Analytics, as soon as it's done uploading, Cognos then runs some analysis in the background, so that we can have these interactions with the assistant on the fly without having to wait. So just because I asked about revenue, Cognos Analytics, when it was running some comparisons between the columns in my data set, noticed a deviation of 20% between revenue and target revenue. And what that actually means, as you can see from this visualization at the bottom, is that we're up 20% on our revenue with a total of 109 million. And this is significant enough difference that Cognos Analytics decided to feed it back to us, even though we haven't asked any particular questions. It knows that this is something that I'm likely to be interested in. Every time we generate a visualization with the assistant, we also generate these narrative insights on the right-hand side. So these are natural language automatically generated insights, which use information from outside of the visualizations to tell us what's going on behind the scenes. I can ask a slightly more complex question, or I could say, show me quantity sold by product line and order year. So this is obviously comparing 3 columns at the same time. So Cognos Analytics can't respond with a very simple answer to that question. So it's generated me a visualization showing quantity sold, order year, and product line. But there are multiple visualizations we can choose from. We've got a line chart, an area chart, and a packed bubble chart, for example, all showing the same data in a slightly different way. As we can see, over the last 4 years or so, we can see the changes between our different product lines in terms of the sales. And on the right-hand side, we can see some information that's telling us where these changes might be coming from. If we look at this third insight here, we can see that between 2021 and 2022, the quantity sold in the London store increased by 173%. And that's the year that we saw a fair bit of growth between our product lines. And the important thing here is that we haven't asked for anything regarding location-based data. We've just asked to see this information. But knowing that specifically London has an increase of 173%, Cognos has fed this back to us as a key insight, which may be explaining where the increase in our sales has come from. This is a really important insight for me, and I may want to share this directly with my team, but the key thing about Cognos Analytics 12 is that we don't have to create a dashboard or a report to share this information. We can do it directly from the assistant via email, Microsoft Teams, or Slack. I'm going to send this via email. I can choose to attach an image of my visualization and any of the 8 insights that were generated, but I'm just going to choose the one about London here. I'm going to send this to Zach because I know that Zach works with the data from the London store, let's say, and I'll send him a very descriptive message telling him all about what he needs to know. And I can click on the image of the visualization to add some annotations like an arrow pointing here and some text, going into further detail about what he's looking at. We can see on this small image that my annotations are there. And once I hit send, we'll get a notification telling me that the email was sent to Zach. So that's great. Within 5 minutes, we've asked a couple of questions and found a key insight into our data that's explaining where some of the driving and revenue came from that we definitely would have been able to see from this visualization with the naked eye. Now that we've had this conversation about our data, we might want to pull it across into a dashboard. Here's a dashboard that I was working on earlier, which is looking at some of that customer information and the sales data. We see some KPIs about the number of customers we've sold to and how many products we have sold them. A packed bubble chart on the left-hand side showing the customer loyalty status colored by the product lines and quantities sold. So we can see our bronze customers are buying lots of home theatre goods and the platinum customers are buying lots of photography goods. We also see a map in the bottom left showing us the quantity sold per state and the revenue per store. So if I zoom in over Europe here, we see these points breaking down into our individual stores. If I hover over the London store, we can see they have a revenue of around 8 million. I do have a couple of gaps left to fill up my dashboard, and if I open up the assistant, it will open up on the right hand side of the screen, but you'll also see that it's remembered our whole conversation from before. So I can scroll through, see any of the visualizations I've generated, and very simply drag them across and drop them into the dashboard. I can resize them as I need to, and I can continue to edit these visualizations as well. I'll open up the revenue column on here, change this to a number and abbreviate. So we can just see in big clear numbers that's 109 million above target we are. I can also add the second visualization we made, the quantity sold by order year and product line. And again, I'll just drag and drop that into the bottom left corner of the screen. I'll make some changes to this visualization. I'm going to open up the Fields tab, and under order year on the x-axis, I'm also going to add the quarter so that we can see a more detailed view of our historical sales trends. If I select this visualization, I can use the focus mode in the top right corner to expand this visualization and see these data points in a bit more detail. We'll notice that our sales over time, especially early 2020, really dropped off. Who knows what could have caused this huge decrease in sales across our global company in 2020, but I don't really want that data in my visualization. So I'm going to go into the Fields tab, and I'm going to filter the order year. So I'll filter out those two dipped years so that we can see data that's more relevant to our current performance. Another addition to Cognos Analytics in version 11 was the Analytics tab. So here is where we'll find our narrative insights, which we can regenerate for this visualization. And as we've filtered the data to see different years, we will get some slightly different narrative insights to what we saw in the assistant. We also have our regular insights as well as our forecasting capability. Now, we can toggle this forecast on to generate a forecast for each of our product lines and the quantity sold that we are expecting. We can change some of the information about this forecast. We can change the number of periods we forecast for. We can ignore any periods to account for any outliers within our data or create a lag. We can change the confidence level of our forecast, and we can adjust for seasonality as well. We aren't able to specifically choose which forecasting models are used in Cognos Analytics. Cognos Analytics will run some tests in the background and choose between 9 out-of-the-box forecasting models based on whichever one has the best fit to our data. We can see this in the Statistical Details tab, where if we open up, for example, kitchen appliances, we can see that there is a very high predicted accuracy for this forecast. We can open up the parameters and the measures of error and model fit to see the values that Cognos calculated for this forecast. And on the right-hand side, we can see which statistical model was chosen. So we have an exponential smoothing model with additive trend and seasonality. And we can see all of the potential models that were able to be chosen from, as well as the trend strength and the seasonality strength as well. So we may not be able to choose exactly how Cognos Analytics forecasts our data, but at least we can see why it's chosen what it has. A couple of other additions in version 12 have been the ability to conditionally format your visualizations. So if I select this one again, I open up the Properties tab, we'll see I'm able to add a conditional color to my data. So I'm going to add one to the quantity sold here. I'll do this numerically and add a very simple rule that if it's greater than 6,000, then we'll change the data points to gold. And we'll see, if I go back into focus mode, these three data points are all above the 6,000 quantity sold and have all turned yellow. So that's a very quick and simple calculation, but this capability is available across almost all of the 40 out-of-the-box visualizations that come with Cognos Analytics version 12. Now that our dashboard is complete, we want to add some filters here. And this is just going to be showcasing one of the best additions, I think, of version 11, and that is the Cascading Filters tab. So we're going to add country as one filter, and we will add province and state as another filter as well. Here I can highlight the United Kingdom, for example, and all of my visualizations will be filtered to just look at the United Kingdom. Then if I open up province and state, I can see that Alabama and Alaska are still available. So I wonder what Alabama in the UK has to show me. And obviously there is no information there as that's in America. The way to get around this is to make use of the cascade sets. So if I add both of my filters to a cascade set, then the filters will automatically apply to each other before they apply to the data. So now I've filtered country by United Kingdom, and province and state does not have Alabama anymore. It has Brighton and Bristol, which I can filter on here. If I open up the filter, I can toggle on all the values and we can see everything that has been removed. This just allows you to prevent any issues like the lack of data that we saw just a moment ago. I'm going to move across to a second dashboard now, my telco dashboard. So this is looking at the call center for our company, let's say. And it's just got some information about customer calls and how those calls were handled. So we see the number of calls here, the queue time, talk time, and handle time. In total, we can see what our customers have been calling about, whether it's technical support or billing and payments. And we can see how these calls have been resolved, with a huge amount of these calls able to be resolved by the IBM What's Next Assistant, which is another fantastic product in the IBM AI portfolio. So this is a nice looking dashboard, and we can see across the bottom we have this call hour, where if we select any of these points, we can see the exact number of calls, how long the calls were taking at this time of day. I can update to 7 o'clock, and you can see there's some loading in between. But if I click play, then unfortunately there is not enough time between the jumps here for all of my visualizations to update. And that's because I'm looking at a huge data set. It's 7 or 8 tables, all with millions of rows. I've had to try and slow Cognos down because over the last several upgrades, Cognos Analytics' query engine has been upgraded to a great level where it's very difficult to slow the product down. But as you can see, there are some cases where in very specific scenarios you may find some slowing down. But thankfully, in Cognos Analytics 12, to speed up the tool even faster, a new capability was added in the dashboard caching. So Cognos Analytics doesn't store any of your data. Like I said, it queries back and forth from wherever your data is stored and pulls the data into your browser instance as and when you apply filters or add any new visualizations. But if we go into properties and scroll to the advanced section, we're able to configure a local data cache. This will enable you to cache some of your data in your browser instance of Cognos Analytics. That will take a portion of that data and store it so that you can quickly access it. So I have a data cache pre-built here. And if I open this up, we can see the columns from my dataset that have been added to this cache. I can add some more, like call hour here. I can add that one in. And then all I need to do is reload my cache, turn this on and reload it. And we'll see we've got the yellow icon here telling me that's loading. It should only take another 5 seconds or so. Just stashing some of the data from these columns into my browser cache so that it's readily accessible. And there we see by that little notification that loading has done. Now, when I hit play on my data player, you'll see there is no loading whatsoever, and my visualizations update automatically. To show the power of this, I'm going to turn off the data cache, and we can see that they go back to loading. And I turn on the data cache, and we see that they load immediately. This is a really, really great feature of Cognos Analytics version 12, especially if you have these very busy dashboards with lots of visualizations or just a huge data set that you don't want to query every single time you add a filter. The final edition of Cognos Analytics 12 that I wanted to share with you has actually been on the screen the whole time. It is our nested dashboard visualization. Now, I really like this tool because it enables you to keep your visualizations nice and big like we see on the screen here. And rather than me having to create a new tab because there's no more room, I can actually create a new tab within one of my visualizations. So I'll add a new section here, and I can add a very simple, let's just do call type ID and call count. That'll be nice and simple. Pop that in, resize that as I need to. And there we go. Now I've added another full-size visualization to my screen without having to sacrifice any of the other space or create too many pages. I can now flick between these two visualizations as I want to. In tab 1 and tab 2, I can edit the title of this to be call count by type, let's say. And I can change the template of the background so that I can fit even more visualizations in that nested dashboard. So that's just some of the new features of Cognos Analytics version 12 across some of the latest releases as well. There have been roughly 600 updates and changes that have been made to Cognos Analytics since version 10, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some that you were unaware of that you missed. Obviously, that's not all of them that I've shown today. That's just a selection of the best ones that I've seen, or some of my favorites. But if you have any questions or want any further information or a deeper dive into any of these latest and greatest features, then my details will be in the blog post below, and I'll be more than happy to take you through anything that you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching.